Hey guys, Scarlet here, giving you a behind-the-scenes look at my latest film, Johnny Thunder and the Scarlet Memories. Let's get started. So this movie started, with me actually at a Thai restaurant. Not a Vietnamese one, a Thai one. But, I'm waiting for my order to come, and I'm looking around, looking at all the, art decor and whatnot. And it occurred to me that I'd never sent Johnny to this area of the world at all. And I'd always had a good reason to. I have seen many versions of Johnny, and they all take place in different time periods. So I decided to just go ahead and put Johnny in my favorite time period, which is the 1960s. Which means that that area of the world is completely war-torn, especially Vietnam. And actually, the two characters that you see walk behind Pippin is a little nod to that. Their names are BD and Fred, and they are two characters from a comic named Doonesbury. In a little story arc that takes place in the comic, they get stranded in Vietnam during the Vietnamese War, and they have to end up helping each other despite being enemies. Anyway, so I really considered, I really should send Johnny to this place, but I don't think I can send him after a treasure. Because it's war-torn. There's too much danger in that. So it's like, crap, what am I going to do? And I thought back to my favorite Tintin comic. As you guys may or may not know, my Johnny Thunder stories are heavily influenced by Tintin. And in my favorite story, he's not chasing down bad guys or helping stop wars or stopping drugs or anything like that. He is simply in the Himalayas looking for a lost friend. And I want to do something like that, what if one of them got separated from the others and it was a story on trying to find them? But again, the problem was that alone isn't going to fix it. In Tintin in Tibet, there's little other minor things that help keep the story exciting. I won't spoil what, because you might want to read it, but good story. And so I was talking to Dylan about this, and he said, well, I have two things that I've wanted to see in your Johnny Thunder films. Maybe you can find a way to tie these in. Alright, hand them to me. And the first one he said was, he wanted to play a Dr. Kilroy when he was outside his fatherly mentor role. Should have known. Same guy who told me to make Johnny fight with a hurt leg and a broken arm is now gonna ask me to take someone out of their usual character role. Okay, see what I can do with that. What's the other one? He said that he was really intrigued with how I portrayed Daniel in the previous one, and he wanted to see me continue that. And to be fair, back when, Fuquay Arts was doing his series about Daniel Thunder. Great series, by the way. In fact, all the characters' names in this one actually came from his series. So, just giving credit where credit is due. But, when he was working on that, I was starting to think about my own version of how I thought these people would be like. And I had Indiria's death in the back of my mind because of that. And I decided, okay, well, what if I had Indiria die in Vietnam and I had what was going on be similar to the events that led up to Indiria's death? That way, Dr. Kilroy is going to be out of his usual role because he's going to be struggling with that so much. I mean, you really think about it, it's easy to classify Johnny as the sad hero because he's the orphan. But the truth is, he just lost his father, possibly his mother. Dr. Kilroy lost everyone, and he lost his way of life for a little while. He's kind of gotten it back with Johnny and Pippin, but it's not quite the same. So, in a way, he's a more sad character, and it would be interesting to look into how he copes with that in situations like these. And then again, through flashback scenes, I could show the dynamic of the team, what I thought they looked like, how I thought they interacted with each other, how I thought they met one of their teammates, what they first did when Sam first struck, how he first struck in the first place. It was a great way to explore this original team that's been, as Dylan put it, talked about in so many films, but I've never really taken an opportunity to properly explore them. I started to in Labyrinth of the Mountains, but hopefully this gives you guys a really good taste of how I feel the team worked. Now this leads to so that's how the story came to be, but this leads to the question: will I continue looking at Daniel and his team? At the moment, I'm gonna say no. I do have the next Johnny Thunder story planned out. I just have to script it and send it out to my voice actors and film it and everything. But it's not gonna feature them. And honestly, while I certainly had some storylines connected with them, a lot of them I don't think I could really tell just through flashbacks. I think I would actually have to dedicate episodes to them, which I really don't want to do. I'm okay with doing flashbacks. I'm even okay with doing heavy flashbacks like I did with this one, but if I'm going to tell a story, I want to tell it properly. So at least for the moment, we're going to set Daniel aside and take a look at just the main three. So on to the story itself. There were a few scenes that struck out to me. First of all, and honestly this stuck out to basically everyone who watched it, was the nightmare scene. Which, when it finally went from flashback to surreal, a surreal image of how Dr. Kilroy was feeling about all this. And I'll be honest, I took a lot of inspiration for that scene from the creepypasta Squidward Suicide. The whole very slowly drawing back so that you can barely tell it is. The whole blood drips from the eye, which is very common in creepypastas, but I cannot deny how effective it is if you don't overuse it. It was a very surreal scene, and it was honestly not as hard to do as some of the other scenes I've done, but it turned out amazingly well. I was very proud of that. But similar to that, the scene afterwards, and also the scene with Johnny and Sam, with the campfire, I did a special effect with that. I wanted there to be a warm light, and I wanted it to seem to be coming from the fire, to really kind of give that campfire glow. Both to create the shadows of how menacing Sam can be, and also just to make the conversation between Pippin and Dr. Kilroy that much more healing looking, that much more warm and welcoming. And what I ended up doing was I took a candle and I set it just off camera, and I filmed everything around that candle. And the candle was the only light in the set. I had no lights on. I was a little nervous about that because I've already got one burn scar on my arm, and I didn't want another one, but I was very careful. And I kept the flame well away from the camera itself and from wires, but I love how the lighting turned out. It's definitely something I'm going to attempt to do again if I do more campfire scenes. And then the other thing that I think I really need to talk about is Brody. Some of you may have noticed that Brody does not have a single line. Now you can just go ahead and say, well, maybe he's a mute, and I'm fine with that. You can take with that how you will, but here's kind of my issue with Brody, and it's going to go into another thing. I don't know anything about Nepal. I don't know what a Nepalese accent sounds like. I don't know much about the Himalayas. I don't know what their culture is like at all. It's like other places I send Johnny to, I at least have some background knowledge, and that just isn't the case with Brody. In fact, it's to the point where when I'm looking at this character, which is another minor character from from the original Johnny Thunder, I have no idea how to say his name, and I've heard it pronounced so many ways. That's the other problem, is that every time I try to go someplace to figure out, okay, what's this like, I get conflicting information. So as a result, I am never going to show this character in any of my films. I'm never sending Johnny back to Mount Everest. And Mount Everest is cool and all, but there's this and there's other issues with sending Johnny there. And if I do show Barati again, he's not going to have any lines. Like I said, you can look at him as a mute, and that's fine. I certainly don't have anything against disabled adventurers. But that's just something I want people to keep in mind. If they're ever wanting to request that, my answer is automatically going to be no, and that's the biggest reason why. The final thing I'd like to talk about is, some of you may have noticed that in the jungle scenes, I had Lego bases on either side of my usual background. I gotta be honest, I am getting really tired of having to either zoom in or edit out all these little spaces behind my background. And I'm thinking about maybe creating some sort of soundstage. So I want to invite anyone who's watching this. If you have any ideas on how I can accomplish this, email me, send me a Skype message, put it in the comments if you have to. Just help me out here a little bit. Give me some ideas on how I can make sort of a soundstage for the adventurers, because what I have just isn't working out. I think that's about it. So, hope to see you in my next movie, Alpha Team and the Cyber Mysteries. Till then, stay strong, do your best, be yourself, and hang on tight. Things are always better in the end, and if they aren't better, it's not the end. Later!